Hi guys, another request. Hope it's what the requestee was looking for. Anyway, it's going to be a strap hinge, just a very simple one, out of this bit of inch by quarter. Don't worry about that, that's what I was doing something else with this bit of steel. Yeah, so it's just going to be a very simple one. First thing off, we're going to put a slight bevel on this front edge. Probably about 30 degrees, something like that, just so that when it curls round it comes flush with the parent material. You'll see what I mean as it develops. Right, nice and warm. Just a very short bevel on the edge there. Hardly anything. And you can see where it's swelled out at the sides here, up here and down there. Leave that, because when you curl it round, you can then flatten it down and it'll make it all much neater. You can see there, just a very slight bevel. It could probably be a little bit steeper, but when that comes round, that'll sort of mould into the parent material and make it look much nicer, not like the machine made ones. They don't bother. So, just start off over the edge of the anvil, knocking it round, put it back, just trying to keep it as round as possible without it distorting too much. I'm not much good at these. I haven't done much of this for years, so as usual it's all a bit hit and miss. Anyway, it's starting to come round and you can't quite see what's going to happen, but you get the idea. That bevel will fit back to the parent material, I hope. Right, I'm going to pull it back a little bit. I'm pulling on this as I'm pulling it back. Just want to keep rounding it up a bit more. I've got a drift here, 1/2 inch drift, just a bit of 1/2 inch steel. And I'm just going to work it around that. You'll find that the edges tend to swell. I don't quite know why, so sometimes you have to work on the edges, both sides, to keep the whole thing sort of parallel. It's not looking too good at the moment, but we'll get there. Now you can flatten it down, and those bits that were sticking out flatten off quite nicely. Now you can see that's gone a little bit too far, but you can get the idea that that's starting to come in. I want to pull it back a little bit. I sort of over-rolled it. So I'm pulling as I'm hammering. I'm just sort of pulling the steel back towards myself. So it's coming. It's better than it was. But what I'm going to try and use to help out is this tool. I don't know what it's called, but I used it on my penny scrolls, one of my earlier videos. Get the camera so you can see. It doesn't matter if you haven't got one of these, it's just convenient. It's still not the ideal tool. Ideally the top, it's rounded on this one because of it being used on scrolls. Ideally it would be better if it was flat, but it's just, you can pull the metal back and it sort of pushes the start of the hinge back under itself. And I'm making a bit of a meal of this, but as I say, I haven't done one of these for such a long while. I forget which technique to use and what order. But we're getting there. So it's a bit hit and miss, but you can see now it's starting to blend in, that bevel. And trust me, if it wasn't there, you'd soon notice it. It would be quite obvious. I'm just going to change hammers. Tickle it around with a slightly smaller one. Bugger. Oh no, I've completely lost this now. It's gone right under the anvil. My anvil's on a sort of a hollow block and it's gone right underneath. I'm going to have to stop the video and find it. Right, found it. I'm just tickling it around, trying to keep the material close to the drift. And so moving it around all the time so you don't get any flat spots. It's very easy to get flat spots if you don't keep your hammer and the material moving. It's starting to look a bit better now. Push it back out because, as I say, it keeps rolling itself up a little bit too much. I am overworking it a little, but as I say, I'm trying to get it right. Try and keep it parallel. It's so easy to keep hammering it and make it taper because you're trying to get it look right. But there you go. I think you get the idea now that bevel sits nicely against the parent material, closes the whole sort of circle up completely. Right, there you go. So I think what I'm going to do is a bit long now, so I'm going to cut it off and then maybe put something like a penny end on the end of this one, make it a little bit more fancy. Swap over to the big hammer again. Now cut this down, and it's a bit warm, so I've got my glove on. Just hanging over about an inch or so, about the same amount hanging over as the width of the material. Give it some beans. Basically tapering it down. See what's happening. Okay. Get it warm again. Keep thinning it down. Doesn't want to be too thin. Try and keep the thickness about the same. Probably knew that was coming. A lot of my videos where I do round things, that's the procedure. Take the corners off. You can see what's happening. It's getting a bit warm. I'm just going to cool it out a bit. Even with my gloves on, it's a little bit too hot to handle. Get it warm again, just the end, the business end. Swap over to the slightly smaller hammer. Take the slag off, and just rounding it back up, keeping it moving. I always say, keep it moving, keep it moving. Because if you don't, you'll end up with flat spots. That's sort of what I'm looking for. When it sort of, so it tapers nicely. It's all a sort of a question of using your own eye, and that to me doesn't look too bad. It's almost there. So now I'm going to punch a hole in the end, just for a change. I normally drill these things, but give you a treat, I'm going to punch it. Now this is my punch I use for studs on my shoes, but it'll do the job. It's about 1/4 inch at the small end. You can see on the back there, there's a little black mark, and that's where you want to centre it, over the Pritchell hole, bang, knock the slug out, and it's gone. Just like that. Dead easy. Nice neat hole. So what I think I'll do is probably put another one up here somewhere, and then one in the middle, and I'll quickly do that again with the punch. You don't have to punch these, and even if you want to, you can punch them square for like coach bolts, so that the coach bolt doesn't spin. Again, a couple of hits until it hits the anvil. You'll know when it hits the anvil. Flip it over, back on the centre of the mark, which you'll see, it's obvious. There you go, another one, done. Quick as that. Takes longer to heat up than it does to actually punch the hole. Do one more up the end. Alright. Again, a couple of inches in. And now I've just realised I've made a bit of a boo-boo here, because that now won't fit over the Pritchell hole because it's too far in. So we'll just knock it over the edge of the anvil. If I'd done it the other way first, done it from the back and then turned it over and punched it from the front, it would have worked. But of course got my head up my backside. It's still in there, the slug, so it's loose, it just needs knocking out, poking out, so I'll just poke it out with my Pritchell. There it is, gone. Done. But there was a quick lesson to learn. And that's about it. Very simple strap hinge. Right, I've cleaned it up, just giving it a quick wire brush. Nothing fancy, I haven't spent much time on it, I haven't got rid of all the hammer marks. I've done it really quickly, but you get the idea. And now I think you can see, if it'll focus, how that bevel there sits nicely against the parent material. The hinge, you might need to bend it up from about here somewhere or whatever, depending on how far you stick the pin out of your post, but that can be done afterwards. There you go, very simple, quick strap hinge. Obviously spend much more time on it, do whatever you like, but that's the basis. So now we're going to have to make a pin. I'm going to do a knock-in pin, so let's get on with that. I'm going to start with a bit of 5/8 square. This is the stuff I did my last set of tongs with, and the first thing I want to do is upset it at the very end. Now I only want to upset a very short piece, because if you make it too long, the heat, it'll go all wibbly wobbly. So as short as you can. If it's too hot, you can always just cool that bit out back of the very end with a drop of water. Now you want to keep it the same width one way, that way, and let it spread the other way if you can. You see that's starting to spread nicely. You need to get it hot again short as possible. See, that's probably as much as hot as you want to get it, really, or as far back as you want to get it. You don't really want it any further, otherwise it'll start going all over the place. Now I want to put a shoulder in it. This probably isn't the ideal way of doing it, but it's a way of doing it. Get the idea, it's messy, but it doesn't matter because I am actually going to thin it out behind the shoulder. So you get the idea, we're starting to get a nice little round bit on the end. Now I'm going to start and just thin it out a little bit behind the shoulder, because I probably want to end up about 1/2 inch material when I finally draw it down. And obviously if your post isn't particularly thick or big, you might even want to draw it down a bit smaller. Back to the little hammer, start tidying it up. Again, you can see where we're going. My regular subs will probably realise that there's a lot of the same moves coming again and again and again to achieve different results, or the same results but in a different perhaps order. It's what you learn. You see it's not very tidy, but I'm going to thin it down a bit more. Alright, so I'm going to punch the hole first and then tidy it up afterwards. Again, one of my stud punches, which is a slightly bigger one. Turn it over, you can't quite see the mark there, but trust me, there's one. And there's the little slug on the anvil there. Punches out quite easily. So there you go, there's the hole. I want it a bit bigger, so I'm going to push the punch through and open it up to about 3/8 or so at the top. I want a tapered hole because that's what's going to tighten up my pin. There's obviously different ways of doing this. This is the way I'm doing it today. This isn't necessarily the only way or the best way, but it's the way I'm doing it today. It's a perfectly acceptable way. Right, so there you go. I'm just going to punch through it again. All that hammering, flattening and all the rest of it puts a little bit of a burr on. So just clean it out so that we've got a straight tapered hole. So what I need now is my drift, which I can't find. I don't know what I've done with it. It was here a minute ago. The one I used to make the hinge. There it is. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to taper the end of that so it goes in there with a bit of a shoulder so that I can rivet it over on the back. So I'm just going to use the edge of the anvil so that I can start the shoulder. Because the the bit of material it's going through is only just over 1/2 inch, you can't just taper it, because the taper would be sticking out of the pin, or out of the bit that the pin goes in. So I want to try and get a shoulder on it so that it's got something to sort of bite up against. So it's just coming through. I want it a bit longer, and to define the shoulder. Several ways of doing it, defining the shoulder, but the way I'm going to do it is with this. It's just a block of steel with, I've got about a 3/8 hole in there. This wasn't for this job, this was for something else, I can't think what. I might have used it on one of my other videos, but it'll do the job. Just going to put that into the hole, over the pritchel hole, give it a couple of really good belts. See, that's bent a little bit, but you can also see that that's given me a nice little shoulder, and it's lengthened the bit of pin that's going through the hinge, or the pin bit. You can see there's a reasonable shoulder there now. So once that goes through there, if it'll focus, you can see that that's quite a nice tight fit. I might cut a little bit off that pin, but I might leave it as it is. Doesn't really matter. So right, I'm going to cut this off and draw it out into a taper, and then put some barbs on it. So quickly whip it off. Right, on with the big hammer. Decent set of tongs to hold it with. Not the ideal set, but pretty chunky set that will hold it quite nicely. And be careful it doesn't flick up at you. And I'm just going to draw this down. I'm going to try and get it down so that it's the same width as the thickness of the end where the pin's going through. So I'm going to get it hot a bit further back, so it's not quite such hard work. Like I say, I'm suffering with my arms these days, so I'll try and make life easy for myself. Get things nice and hot and don't work them too cold. And pray for a power hammer. One day, you never know, when I get a bigger shop, I might invest in one. You can see we're getting there. It's going to be quite a long pin. This is probably, it would go in a 10 or 12 inch nice solid post. As I said before, if you're going to put it in a smaller post or a door frame or something like that, you might want to make it much thinner, much shorter. It's all exactly the same principle. You just cut it off a bit shorter to start with and work it down a bit more than this. That's almost there. Tidy it up a bit now with the smaller hammer. The big one's good for getting the meat knocked out of it, and the little one is nice for just finishing off, taking out all the decent or big hammer marks, tidying it up, getting it down to how you want it. It's not bad. I could do with a little bit more, but I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'll get ready for putting in the barbs. I'm going to try and use my hold down that I made in one of my other videos, if it'll hold. No, it's not having any. I don't know why. It's a good advert for my hold down, isn't it? No, that's not having any. That's got it. Saw there. Push down. I'm just going to use a little bolster. Just put a little nick. Oh, dropping my hammer. I'm not doing well today. So, little nicks all the way down the side. There's 4 down there. That's ample. If you can see them. Just knocked out little barbs. Little focus. Just so that will hold in the wood. I'm just going to do that on all the other corners. That's got it. First time this time. Just going to, before it cools right out, knock out some more. One more. That's it. And that's done nicely. Down both sides. Just want to focus. Just see. I'm just going to turn it over and do the other side. So stick it back in and get that warm. And see if that will hold this time. Typical, isn't it? Right, so now we've got the other side. No, yep, that's got it. You can see it when it actually gets it. 4 more, and then do the other side. Oh bugger. Never mind. That'll do. Near enough, you can see we've got it down all 4 sides now. And that will hold in a bit of wood a treat. Just clean it up. Alright, just giving it a quick wire brush. And you can see how the bulbs they don't stick out too much. You don't want them sticking out too much because when you hammer it in the wood, it'll split it or could damage the wood. But let's put the pin in now, rivet that over. Alright, so I've cut the pin down, got it hot. And then rivet it over. Very straightforward, simple job. Go round and round a little bit to sort of mushroom it over. And there you go. Make sure it's straight. It's leaning back a little bit, but that can be easily sorted out. Nicely riveted over. That ain't coming out. And obviously the shoulder that I put on it earlier has made it nice and tight. Let's just straighten that out a little bit. That's a bit better. So now I'm just going to clean that one up and show you the pin and the hinge together. So just cool it out and give it a clean up. There you go, 2 together. And obviously, like I say, if your wood's much smaller, you can just make a smaller pin. But this would be ideal for a big lump of timber. There you go. Simple as that. Make this, I'd probably put it into the wood about 1.5 inches, leave 1.5 inches sticking out, 1 inch and a bit maybe. And then I'll have to bend the hinge, perhaps even less, maybe 1 inch sticking out, bend the hinge to fit so that the door remains flush with the post. But that can be sorted out when it's fitted. There you go. I hope that's the sort of thing the requestee was looking for. If not, I hope the rest of you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one.